This is Dr. Paul with Chiropractic Personal Injury Marketing. Let me just share with you what to do if you cannot get to a meeting with the attorney. Remember, one of the very first things we do when we have a patient come in that already has an attorney is we got to get to that attorney as fast as possible and give them the presentation. Because remember, that presentation is what totally shifts the relationship and creates need and authority and credibility. So it totally changes the dynamic. And then it also starts creating referrals. So sometimes if they don't want to meet with you, and they usually do, especially if they're like a C or a B attorney, they will, especially because it's their patient and you're essentially giving the documentation that's going to determine the injury award. So that's usually one of the easiest attorneys to build a relationship with, because they're going to typically want to meet with you. The ones that don't are typically higher, that have a lot of paralegals and a lot of cases, and they're just churning and burning essentially. And of course, that's not your target market anyway, unless you've got 3, 4, 5, 10 offices. But if you don't have that kind of offices, that's not your target market. And so what you want to do is, if they're not willing to meet with you, then create a short video, and you want it short. And so what do you want to focus on? You always want to focus on what interests them. What do they care about? So you want to talk about the 7 minimum cases that determine the strength of the case, and share with them how strong of a case they do or don't have and why. That's now relevant to them in the injury award. Make it short, quick, and fast. And all you do is just put the documentation up. So again, you can just put it on a Word document, the outline. You can use the Word document to record from. I like converting it to a PDF, and then you can just open the screen where you can see everything clean, real clean. And just make sure the font is large, because it's much harder to see something on a small video. So don't use 12 or 14 font. I typically use 26 to 28 font for if I want somebody to see it on a video. If you use 12 or 14 font, they won't even be able to see it when they're watching a video, okay? So do be aware of that. And then just write the categories down. Put the 7 categories, put the primary documentation, secondary documentation, the number of different diagnostic categories, and then just write it all down and explain it to them. Say, hey, whatever they have. If they have a strong case, say it. If they don't, say it and tell them why. And so let me share with you why, and then point out, points of emphasis. Say, hey, if there's a couple points of emphasis, like they have 1 or 2 objective categories that are permanent MMI permanent, I want to say that. And, hey, you got a good, strong case here. Matter of fact, you've got, whether it's 1 or 2 objective categories in the diagnostic category to support your injury, plus all the other categories, the hybrid documentation, the subjective findings, and this is what it would sound like. And then, so it would be on the screen. Now, you could do it like this and just read from it if you wanted to. You could do that. But remember, words are only 7% communication, tone is 36%, visuals 55%. So they'll be able to see you, which is good, but I want them to see the information. I mean, now I like using Zoom more than Camtasia, because you can do a screen Camtasia capture with Camtasia and create a video with that, but you won't be on there. It'll just be, now the good thing about Zoom like this, you can do a screen capture. Like if I did a share right now, I would be in the upper right-hand corner with my picture, and then there would be the visual content right in front of me. So it'd be very easy to see the content as opposed to hear the content. Remember, hearing's much more difficult than seeing. So that's why I would write out the categories, put the primary, secondary info, just fill it in. Just take that template and fill it in with that patient, and then explain to them. So, and just start with that. Hey, you've got a strong case, or you've got an average case, or you got a below average case in strength, and let me share with you why. Because remember, it's not the strength of the case that matters with the attorney. It's that he knows you know all the documentation categories and what you do and don't have. That's what's important, not the strength of the case. So that's what it would sound like. So as an example, I might say, hey, let me share with you this mutual patient, your client, my patient, and it looks like you might have a good case here. And let me share with you why. Some of the key points is, you've got all 7 minimum categories of documentation fulfilled for the strength of the case. As a matter of fact, you've got 2 objective diagnostic categories. So let me show you what I'm talking about. And then there you go. See, that grabbed their attention. And then go ahead and walk through. So, and then explain it. Here's the 7 minimum categories. If there's more than 7, then, say it and add it. And then include, how much primary evidence they have versus secondary, versus multiple categories of evidence. And that's the bare minimum that determines the strength of the case. So there you go. Just shoot a quick video. That's for the attorneys that you're having a hard time getting through. But that's what you want to do. That's how you'll grab their attention. And I would try to make the video under 10 minutes. I would try to, you gotta hit it fast and hard. I'd try to make it like 7 minutes to no more than 10 minutes. I would not make it 15, 20, or 30 minutes. They don't want to sit around 30 minutes watching your video. But if you do something for like 3 to 7 minutes, something like that, it won't be a problem. They'll watch it. So that's what you need to do. And that's way better because remember, there's a hierarchy of communication. Obviously, the best communication is getting in front of them. That's the best. Well, if they're not allowed, if they're pushing that off, then try to do a live Zoom call because now we still have visual. If you can't do the live Zoom call, then you want to maybe do it over the phone live. See, now you're going down in effective communication. The effectiveness is going down. And then you could even put it in a document. You can even just put it in an email and send it to them. But man, what a huge difference between an email in communication and you talking to them personally. That's like night and day difference in effectiveness. So remember, your vehicle of delivery is important. And the further down you go, the less effective the vehicle of delivery becomes. So that's the best situation. So that's what you want to do with the content. That's how you want to deliver it. And worst case scenario, if you can't get in person, you can't do a quick live Zoom call. And number one, in all likelihood, you're out of your target market, and if that's what's happening. But let's say that's what's happening, then shoot a quick video. Even if you go and do a presentation with the paralegal, that's fine, or the assistant, that's fine too. But remember, they're not the decision makers. So when you go over there, you want to see if you can at least introduce yourself and see if he has time when you go over there to sit in on the meeting. If you can meet him before the meeting, he might have 10 or 15 minutes where he can sit in part of the presentation. After the presentation, if you can meet him, in other words, try to get over there and do the presentation when they're there so you can at least meet them and start the relationship. This is all about relationships. That's just all the different ways you communicate to start affecting relationships. So that's what you'd prefer to do. And then if you do the presentation, then you would try to schedule the meeting from there to the next person up. And if they're not ready to do that yet, you might want to include another intern, like if they like that president, but still remember, they're not the decision makers. But I'd still rather do the associate attorney than nothing at all. Because we'll win those over, and eventually they'll talk. And then eventually it'll be synergistic and they'll say, yeah, you need to hear what this guy has to say. That's what happens. But again, if you're in that situation, you're way over your target market, unless you've got, like I said, multiple offices. And if you got multiple offices, it's much easier to get in than if it just one office. Okay. So take that for what it's worth. But that's how you want to start these relationships. There's various degrees of communicating. Start with person and first. If not, live Zoom. If not, you can do a live phone call. So I'm going to try to do everything live first from visual to audio. And then I'm going to do non-live visual, which is this with the screen up so they can see everything that I've laid out. Make it quick and short, and then send it over upload it and send the link over. And then follow up. Say, hey, did you get a chance to watch that? Do you have any questions about the strength of the case? I'll be glad to come over and go over it with you in greater detail. And a lot of times that's enough of a stepping stone of another contact to go, yeah, because now you started talking the language that they talk. And that's what you have to do.